There's something about modern dating that doesn't feel right, and most people can feel it, but very few can actually explain it. Because on the surface, everything looks better than ever. More options, more access, more ways to meet people. You can connect with someone instantly, you can talk to multiple people at once, you can find someone new in seconds. So logically, dating should be easier, but it's not. It feels harder, more confusing, more draining. And after going through it enough times, you start to notice something. It's not just bad luck, it's not just the people you meet, it's the system. Because the way modern dating is designed doesn't actually help you build something real, it keeps you stuck. Not in an obvious way, not in a way that feels intentional, but in a way that slowly shapes your behavior without you even realizing it. Because everything today is built around one thing: attention, getting it, keeping it, replacing it. And when attention becomes the focus, connection becomes secondary. Because attention is easy, it's instant, it's rewarding, it gives you validation without requiring depth. But real connection requires time, consistency, and emotional investment, and those are the exact things modern dating environments don't encourage. Because when you're constantly exposed to new options, your mindset changes. You stop focusing on what you have and start thinking about what else might be out there. And that one shift alone is enough to prevent anything real from forming. Because real connection requires commitment, choosing one person and ignoring everything else. But when everything else is always available, that becomes difficult. So instead of committing, people stay in a state of exploration, always looking, always comparing, always wondering if there's something better. And that creates a loop. You meet someone, you talk, there's interest, it feels like it could go somewhere, but at the same time there's no urgency to build anything. Because if it doesn't work out, you can just move on. And that safety net is what makes everything unstable. Because when something is easily replaceable, it's rarely valued deeply. And that's what modern dating has turned people into. Options, not individuals, not connections, options. And when you see people as options, you don't invest in them the same way. You don't give the same effort, you don't show the same consistency. You don't build anything long-term, because why would you when something new is always one swipe away? And this doesn't just affect one side, it affects everyone. Because now, even if you're someone who wants something real, you're still operating in the same environment, exposed to the same patterns, dealing with people who have endless alternatives. And over time, that starts to affect you too, not immediately, but gradually. You start adjusting, becoming more cautious, more reserved, more aware, not because you want to, but because experience forces you to. Because how many times can you go through something that feels real in the beginning, only to watch it disappear? How many times can you invest your time, your energy, your attention into something that never actually becomes anything? Eventually, it stops feeling like coincidence and starts feeling like design, because the pattern repeats too consistently, different person, same outcome. And when something repeats like that, you have to question it, not emotionally, but logically. You have to ask yourself, is the problem really the people, or is it the environment that shapes how people behave? Because when you look at it clearly, everything today encourages short-term behavior, quick interactions, fast connections, instant gratification. Nothing is built to last, everything is built to feel good right now. And when people get used to that, their ability to stay consistent naturally weakens. Because consistency requires patience, staying even when things become normal, even when the excitement fades, even when there's no constant stimulation. But modern dating conditions people to expect the opposite: constant stimulation, constant novelty, constant newness. And when that becomes your baseline, anything stable starts to feel boring. And that's where the real problem begins. Because now, even when something good comes into your life, it doesn't feel like enough, not because it isn't enough, but because your mind has been trained to expect more. More excitement, more intensity, more variation. And when that expectation isn't met, interest fades, not because something went wrong, but because something else feels more interesting. And that cycle is what keeps people stuck. And once that cycle starts, it doesn't just affect your results, it changes how you think. At first, you don't notice it. You're just using what's available, talking to people, meeting new ones, exploring your options. It feels normal, like you're doing what everyone else is doing. But over time, something shifts. You stop looking for connection and start chasing feeling, that initial spark, that excitement, that early energy. Because that's the part modern dating gives you the most. The beginning, where everything feels easy, where attention is high, interest is strong, and nothing is complicated yet. But that phase isn't real stability, it's stimulation. And stimulation is addictive because it gives you a reward without requiring effort over time. You don't have to build anything, you don't have to maintain anything, you just experience it and move on. And the more you experience that, the more your brain gets used to it. You start associating connection with intensity, fast replies, constant attention, emotional highs, and anything slower than that starts to feel off, even if it's actually more real. And this is where things get dangerous, because now you're not just in the system is in you. Your expectations change, your patience decreases, your ability to stay consistent weakens, not because you lack discipline, but because you've been conditioned to expect something faster, more stimulating. And that creates a problem because real connection doesn't work like that. It's slower, quieter, built over time. It doesn't always feel exciting, doesn't always give you that high, but it gives you something else: stability. And stability is something modern dating doesn't reward, because it doesn't keep you scrolling, searching, or chasing new options. So naturally, the environment pushes you toward variety, novelty, constant change. And the more you adapt to that, the harder it becomes to do something different, to stay, to build, to commit. Because commitment means giving up everything else, and when you're used to having everything else, that feels like a loss, even if what you're choosing is better. And that's the trap. It doesn't feel like a trap, it feels like freedom, unlimited options, unlimited access, unlimited possibilities. But in reality, it's the reason nothing lasts. Because when everything is available, nothing feels valuable. And when nothing feels valuable, nothing gets protected. And when nothing gets protected, everything eventually falls apart. And that's why so many connections never go beyond the beginning. They stay in that early phase where everything feels good, but nothing is real. Because the moment something requires effort, consistency, or choice, people hesitate. They pull back, they slow down, they look around again, just to make sure they're not missing something better. And that hesitation is enough to break momentum, because connection needs direction, two people moving forward at the same time. But when one person starts looking sideways, everything stops. And once it stops, it rarely starts again the same way. Because now there's doubt, uncertainty, a shift in energy you can feel, even if nothing has been said. And that silent shift is something most people don't understand at first. They try to fix it, bring things back to how they were, but what it was never stable. It was just the beginning. And beginnings are easy. They don't require proof, consistency, or time, but anything real does. And that's where most things collapse, not because something went wrong, but because something real was about to begin in an environment that isn't built for it. And when you go through that enough times, it changes you. Not dramatically, but gradually. You become more aware, more controlled, more distant, not because you want to be, but because experience forces you to adapt. Because when patterns repeat, your brain stops seeing them as new and starts seeing them as predictable. And once something becomes predictable, it loses its emotional impact. You don't get as excited, as invested, or as attached because you've seen how it ends. And that leads to emotional detachment, not broken, not negative, but controlled. You can still connect, still talk, still meet people, but there's always a part of you that stays guarded, because deep down you're not expecting it to last. And when you don't expect something to last, you don't treat it the same. You don't invest fully, you don't open up the same way, you don't allow yourself to feel it completely, because feeling it completely means risking disappointment again. And after enough repetition, that risk doesn't feel worth it. So instead of chasing connection, you observe it. You let things play out, you don't rush, you don't assume, you don't build expectations, because expectations are what made things hurt before. And now you've removed them. From the outside, that looks like growth, and in many ways it is. You're more aware, more stable, more controlled. But at the same time, you become less emotionally available, not just to others, but to the experience itself. Because you're no longer reacting to what's happening now, you're reacting to what you've experienced before. And that creates distance, even when things are going well. And that's why so many interactions today feel empty, not because there's no connection, but because there's no depth. And when depth disappears, everything becomes surface level. And eventually, you stop asking why things don't work, and start asking if it's even worth it anymore. And once you reach that point, everything changes. You stop chasing and start choosing.